Hi, this is Nick Forster. Every week on the air, we recognize someone our listeners have told us about, folks who are stepping up in their own communities or beyond and making a positive impact. We do this not only to share these inspiring stories with listeners like you, but to remind us that so often, even in the face of big problems, little steps can lead to great results. It's the eChievement Award, and here's Helen to tell you about this week's winner.
Thank you, Nick. Listener John Brose of Miamisburg, Ohio, told us about this week's story. Robert Adamson was a professional executive chef who worked at some of the most renowned high-end restaurants in the Cincinnati area for over 20 years. Following a family tradition of giving back to those who have less, Robert began volunteering at a local soup kitchen in his spare time. He noticed that the experience there for those who came to eat was cold and detached, with no attempt to welcome them or create a community feel. He also found the food served was not the healthiest. So, knowing that there had to be a better way to provide nourishing food to those in need, Robert and his wife Kim started the nonprofit Pay What You Can Afford restaurant called One Bistro a few years ago, where hungry people can eat with dignity, and folks like you and me can enjoy great food while supporting this worthy operation. And Nick Roberts here to tell us more about this effort and how they've helped others to help start similar projects. So right now, please join me in welcoming our eChievement Award winner this week, Robert Adamson of Dayton, Ohio.
How are you doing, Robert?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us. So we've covered a handful of stories like this. Use this model of this Pay What You Can restaurant. How did you get the idea to start yours? Had you heard about another one?
We did. I heard a message at my church that kind of moved me into putting my life into play. And we started researching community cafes around the United States. And we found Bon Jovi's Soul Kitchen in New Jersey and researched that.
Wow. So that's kind of cool. That's an oblique musical connection. Mm-hmm. And for our listeners who may not know Pay What You Can Afford a restaurant, the concept. Why don't you tell us about the procedure? How does it work?
Yeah, the idea is we have a suggested price on the menu. Those individuals who can't afford anything, we require an hour of their time. And that just gives us a chance to build that relationship. Mm-hmm. Some people pay a couple dollars. Some people pay the full price plus an additional pay what you can or a tip, a pay it forward model.
Yeah. Did you bring any of your customers from your other restaurants? Did your reputation precede you when you started doing this and you had people showing up?
I did not.
No.
No.
Well, tell us about the kinds of people who come in.
Wow, the Dayton, Ohio area is number one in the nation in heroin overdoses. Wow. So we have every day, we have addicts, we have homeless, we have CEOs, we have politicians, business owners.
And Dayton, for those who don't know, was a manufacturing hub for generations. And National Cash Register, there was a steel mill there, there's lots of people working in manufacturing. And most of those jobs are no longer there. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I didn't realize that it's the number one city for heroin overdoses. So there's a lot of people in need. Mm-hmm. And yes. So when you're thinking about your menu and preparing, do you kind of imagine the kinds of people who are coming in, or do you just try to make the best meals you can with the ingredients you have at hand?
We have a set menu, which at the beginning was pretty high-end, gourmet pizzas, gourmet burgers, high-end salads. And it just, again, part of food insecurity is the opportunity for us to educate people on what real food tastes like. People who are food insecure see a spinach being in a can. Yeah. So we have an amazing spinach salad that me personally, I would go and say, hey, why don't you try this? And once they try those flavor profiles, it really changes their way of thinking and breaking the chain of not only food insecurity, but poverty through food.
That's wild. And of course, you've got people from the opposite ends of the economic spectrum. So you've got the people who are doing well and coming here to support your efforts, but also leaving more than they had to spend, and others who are at the absolute bottom. Do they hang out? Do they mingle a little bit?
They do.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had a beautiful story. This gentleman came in, and he was homeless at the time. It was his birthday, so we celebrated that because we're all about family and community.
Yeah.
The police officer who arrested him was there. the judge who prosecuted him who was there, the mayor of this town was there, and we all got to celebrate that. And he came to me later in the day, and he said, "This is my new family."
Wow.
And it was the people who, was really doing their job,
Right.
but they came together eventually and said, "We're here to love you and support you."
Yeah, and he saw them as other or anti or,
Yes.
not part of his world.
Yep.
Are you open year-round?
We are.
Yeah. And so is the need greater in the cold weather?
It is.
Yeah.
The homeless population in our one location in Xenia, Ohio, just starting last year, before that, they didn't have any, like a day center for the homeless to go.
Yeah.
So a place like our community cafes are kind of a hub
Yeah.
to come in and hang out and get warm and get a meal.
Wow. And where do you get the ingredients for your food?
We have quite a few farming partners. We're very seasonal in Ohio. But when we're in season, we have probably 10 or 12
Wow.
farming partners that bless us with, fresh, beautiful ingredients every
Wow.
day. Yeah.
Farm to table.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And so how many people are doing this? It sounds like this could grow because obviously the need is great.
Yeah.
Excuse me, obviously the need is great. So how many people on average are helping to make this happen?
Our database is thousands of volunteers. On an everyday basis at 2 of our locations, we need at least 6 to 8 people every day
Yeah.
to volunteer.
And do you fund this mostly through the those who can pay more than they have to, or how do you pay for all this?
The majority is the customers who not only come in for that meal, but they bless us with the pay it forward.
Yeah. And when did you start all this, Robert?
2012.
2012. And what was the one thing about this effort that surprised you the most in either direction, either positively or negatively?
The generational dysfunction of families that, even if they were at one point functional, but for some reason the generational thing just keeps coming back. And we want to be more than just, feeding them physically, spiritual feeding, mentoring them, coming alongside them to help them break that chain of poverty.
Right. So you think what you're saying is that this is kind of a learned behavior that is passed on from one generation to the next.
Absolutely.
That they don't take the opportunity to find another pathway out through
Right.
education or training, one kind or another.
Yeah.
Many of us read that book, Hillbilly Elegy, which was sort of about that Southern Ohio, Kentucky migration to Southern Ohio and the options and the challenges there.
Absolutely.
So, so that's a bigger issue because that sort of in some ways requires going to the source and trying to change the behavior at home where you aren't, or for the homeless population, obviously you can be more influential in some ways.
Yeah, a lot of it's a thought process.
Yeah.
And you start looking and studying how they think, not only beginning with food options.
Yeah. Is there a first step that you can sort of direct them to when somebody does, for example, you mentioned that customer who had a kind of an awakening, describing these new people as his family. Is there a next step to say, okay, well now here's a place you can go get some training, or here's a place where you might be able to get a job, or here's a place where you might be able to find some housing? I mean, do you get that involved with your customers?
We do. Yeah, we have quite a few partners.
Wow.
Within the addiction population, they can deal with those issues.
Yeah.
Job and family services with jobs.
Yeah.
So we even have a lot of court-appointed people who come in, and they end up staying after their time is up to pay off their fines, which is awesome. Yeah.
Wow. So you started this in 2012. How many meals do you think you've served so far?
We're approaching 50,000.
50,000 meals.
Complimentary meals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably over a couple 100,000 paid meals.
Wow. And do you think this is something that other people can do in other communities? Because clearly you got the idea from one that was already existing.
Yeah, and what we're seeing, we've been approached by probably over 60 nationally that wants to replicate our model.
Wow.
So very soon we're going to be announcing a licensing opportunity for individuals to replicate our model exactly.
Wow.
So we're already mentoring quite a few nationally. We've helped open about 8 cafes nationally.
That's so cool.
So, but what we realize is a lot of them fail due to knowledge and due to somebody kind of mentoring them along that process.
They don't have that guidance.
Correct.
Yeah. And is there a website if somebody wants to go see pictures or see what you're up to, look at the menu or all that stuff?
Yeah, onebistro.org.
One Bistro, Bistro, onebistro.org. And there's all kinds of info there. If people want to contribute or help or support you in some way, they can do that there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want our listeners to know about your efforts?
I think it's a national movement at this point, and
Yeah.
we're excited to be kind of the forefathers of that, and we're just very excited about the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, it's so cool, Robert, that it's a community effort really looking out for those around you. And it makes sense, and it actually invites more people to get involved with, I think, the educational piece, letting other people feel like they're participating in helping the homeless population or the underserved or the addicted. That's really an amazing way to engage the community in practical, tangible ways.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, congratulations. onebistro.org if you want to learn more. Congratulations to our winner this week of the eChievement Award, Mr. Robert Adamson from Dayton, Ohio. Congratulations, Robert.
Thank you.
Railroad comes, we'll take a ride. Here we go side by side. Here we go side by side. Johnny come picking on the banjo.